Backstage with Mothership on Solid Rock Radio begins now. Hear the best in new music, artist interviews, stories from the road, and more. You are now backstage, and here's your host, Mothership.
Hi, friends. This is Mothership launching her first show on Solid Rock Radio. I am a believer, mom, wife, a music fanatic, musicianary supporter. I do online promotion. I cater for bands. I volunteer backstage for events. And I'm an admin on a dozen different social media fan accounts for different bands. I've contributed to Rock on Purpose, Jesus Wired, and Pressing On, among others. And I'm the co-founder of the Grizzly Awards, the first rock and metal award show for faith-based artists. I'm on the booking team of the YMCA or CVJM Loud and Proud Festival in Betzdorf, Germany. Welcome to my latest venture, Backstage with Mothership. Once a week, we're going to share band stories, music news, interview some of yours and my favorite people in the music industry, and we're going to share ways for you to minister and to support your favorite bands. Let's listen to a little music, and then I'll tell you more about why I do what I do. That was Brian Head Welch Band, Love and Death. You know, Brian is one of the reasons I do what I do. I met Brian and his band about 10 years ago when they were in Atlanta on a concert tour. And all the bands were in the merch area talking to fans. You know, I never really listened to Korn. I didn't really know Brian's backstory, but my brother, who was with me, was very familiar with him. And he was struggling with his own issues of addiction. And that night, Brian talked with him, and then eventually he prayed with him about those addictions and had given him his testimony. And afterwards, my brother said to me, you know, if Brian can do it, I can do it. And so his life began to change from that night. So I'm really thankful that Brian and all the bands like them reach out to the fans. And in 2015, I lost my brother. He was murdered. And I can never stop thanking Brian enough for the impact that he had on him and for the assurance that I'm going to see my brother again. And it's directly related to Brian's testimony to him that night. So after that concert, I became friends with Love and Death, fed them after shows, before shows, pampered them whenever I could. Began to do little things for them and the bands they were touring with, because if I felt like I should share with everybody, just sort of a hospitality type thing. Started branching out by meeting more bands that way, and then they would tour with other people, and then they would tour with other people, and it just kind of spread. But I started hearing their stories and seeing what was happening on the road and in the music industry. I had no idea what they were up against in the world and in touring. And so I started hearing these stories and found out that, you know, faith-based musicians usually have a heart for people. A lot of them are out there to reach people, and they're doing a very unique work, and it has eternal results. They're leading people to Christ, they're discipling, they're encouraging people. I've heard so many testimonies where lives were saved. They've decided not to commit suicide, or they were freed from addictions or self-harm. So they kind of help transform lives in general. That's why I call them musicianaries, because they are actually ministers, and they're ministers of the gospel. And we don't treat them as such. And that was the other thing that I noticed that made me sad, was that evangelists and speakers, when they come to our churches, we find them a place to stay. We give them food, we give them an honorarium, we make sure all their needs are met, their gas tank is full when they leave. But when even churches invite bands, they do not want to pay them a nice honorarium. They are hesitant, sometimes because of the rock and metal industry. There are people that are hesitant to pay them or even bring them in, so they have a harder time finding places to play. But they still have an impact on so many lives. And so as I began to find out more of these things about how they don't make as much money. They're spending long periods of time on tour away from their families. Their vans are constantly breaking down, or their tour buses. They're eating junk food. They have no place to sleep but maybe their van in a Walmart parking lot, which is very, very common. They're wearing stage clothes that haven't been washed maybe in weeks. They can't find a place to wash them, or they don't have time for the laundromat. So I started seeing all these difficulties, and it made me want to help even more, especially as I got to be closer friends with them. And I began to invite them to come by the house or try to do things for them, ask them what they needed me to bring to the venues, that sort of thing. And so my husband and I decided to make it our ministry to support musicianaries. We encourage them in any way we can. We buy merch. We do all the things. We'll get into more of those type of things that you can do. But we were trying to provide resources to help them keep going. What we do is an offering beyond the tithe that we give to our church. And I still think I get the best deal out of it because their music blesses me. Their being friends, the relationships bless me as well. And watching the fans that they are ministering to also blesses my heart when I see them interacting. And if they've got a full stomach and they've got all their needs met, it's easier for them to minister to others. So nobody cares to see me on the stage, but they want to see them. And if I can help them get from one town to the next town to the next town with a tank of gas, or with food in their bellies, or a nice place to stay, or have their laundry done, then it's worth it for me to know that I've been part of that ministry. It was ultimately, speaking of love and death, the guitarist's mother that nicknamed me Mothership, and the name stuck, not just because it's a play on the name Mother and Blankenship, which is my last name, but if you look up the meaning of a mothership, it's a vessel or a craft that serves others, operating from a home or port center. So I try to be a port, a home, where I am to minister to people. And I know that out there are a lot of people who do the same thing that I do. I somehow have become a spokesperson. I don't know how, but I know that there are band moms and dads and people that do this in every town. And as I started doing this, I began to see these people and meet up with these people. And we've sort of, it's not very organized, but we have a group of people that we stick together, and we try to find ways that we can minister to these people while they're on the road. And hey, we do this as a family and a fan family. So that is one of the things that got me started in this, and we can talk about more later. But Brian Head Welch is a good friend, and he is possibly one of the main reasons I am doing what I'm doing today. So I hope you enjoyed his song today. That was The Sinner by Memphis Mayfire. They were one of our headliners last year at CVJM Loud and Proud Festival. Solid group of guys, great music. Coming up, hi, I'm back. This is Mothership again, and I wanted to share with you another thing that brought me into the industry and into supporting musicianaries. In my own life, like all of us, I would imagine, we have had some difficulties and some things that have gone on that were sometimes pretty deep or pretty dark, and sometimes that was hard to maybe pick up your Bible and read it, or hard to relate to other Christians who acted like maybe they had everything all together, or told you just need to pray more or read the Bible more. And you know a lot of this stuff in your heart, and you are a believer, but you're just sometimes just sad, or you're just depressed and going through a lot of different things in my life. There were times where I just could not have the joy that I saw other people having, or at least other people projecting that they had. And so sometimes I felt a little bit out of sync with the rest of the church. And music has always, even from when I was a kid, been sort of a medicine for me. It was always something that would lift me up, that I could relate to the lyrics. And so in a way it's like a medicine to me, and like to a lot of other people I know too. So one of the things that sticks out in my mind was a time I went to a worship event, and I've been a believer for many, many years. I was in the ministry with my husband, who's a minister of music and has done youth ministry, and had some rough stuff going on with the family and deaths and different things that just were overwhelming, like the death of my brother. And I went to a worship and praise concert, and the message on the stage was, we have the victory. Yes, we do. But sometimes, we don't feel like we have the victory. And I believe at that time, I felt out of place in that worship time because it was so bubbly and so different than what I was feeling at the moment. And it was one of the first times I felt that out of place in worship. And I started looking around, and I saw other people who had sort of the same expressions on their faces. And I said, that can't just be me that feel like, what's wrong with me? And why am I the only one? Am I the only one here that is not feeling it? And sometimes, I've had problems with worship or styles or artists or some CCM where it's a little cookie cutter, a little manufactured. It doesn't speak to me like the heavier music does. And so as I walked out of there and I was kind of contemplating all of that, I turned on my car and the music came on, and it was Red, and it started with "Hold Me Now Till the Fear Is Leaving, I'm Barely Breathing." And I lost it. I cried and wept, and it was cleansing. Hope is slipping through my hands. Gravity is taking hold. I said that I'm not afraid, that I'm brave enough. I will not give up until I see the sun. And I thought, that's what is ministering to me right now, not the other. And I know that there are a lot of people out there that you're the only Jesus they'll ever see, and you're the only words of life they'll ever read. And sometimes musicians' lyrics are the only thing that people will listen to or will meet them where they are. And so that was just a big moment for me in knowing that by helping to support these people, that people are being reached at a level that the church can do, but isn't always able to do if the people are not there or if they're not able to relate to. So that was just another thing I'd like to share, and I'd like to play that song for you now, Red, Hold Me Now. Hey, thanks for hanging out. Let's remember to be kind and compassionate to each other this week, and I'll see you next week on Backstage with Mothership on Solid Rock Radio.